Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Ryan here, and welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk. I hope you guys missed me last week, but we had Andromeda here to show you guys over a new genre that I normally don't cover. So let me know how you guys thought about that in the chat box. And this week, we're getting right back into it. We're going to go over the session we did last time, but we're going to be checking out some final touches for your mixes. So if you haven't seen the last episode, I strongly suggest checking it out. It's going to go over all the tips that we'd use to make this project. Remember, this whole thing was done with Total Studio 2 Max. Check out the link in the description for all of our promotions. You will get a sick deal on a bunch of different stuff in the next upcoming weeks, and there's also some great deals now, so check that out. And make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you're alerted of all our different giveaways and all of our different events. So let's go ahead and take a dive right in here, and we're going to first take a look at our session, which is an Ableton 10. Let's check out our preferences. If you see here, you're going to see AXIO, ACIO. We're always going to pick our ACIO drivers, and we're going to be focusing mainly on pseudo mastering. So really we are mastering, but normally most professionals will leave that to a mastering engineer who has a dedicated setup for all this stuff. So we're going to be going over how to do this stuff at home to really finalize all your different productions and stuff like that. So let's jump into the setup, and you'll see here that I have a 2048 buffer size. You want to keep it nice and large because you want to have as much processing power for as many plugins as you want to use. Now, remember, you can always freeze tracks, you can always bounce tracks. You don't necessarily need to always be loading your sessions with plugins. I like to separate the process from tracking, editing, mixing, and mastering, having a new session for each of those, making sure all of my stuff is aligned properly in every step of the way, and it keeps my processing power low, and I don't have to worry about looking at that CPU meter getting clicks and pops. So if you look here, 2048, that's our buffer. That's the most we're going to set up. Now, if you're not a Windows guy, you don't need to worry too much about ACIO, but let's go ahead and close that. And if you guys haven't heard the session from last week, I'm going to play that through once here, and I'm going to let you guys listen to exactly what we missed out last time, which was the solo from one of our moderators here, Peter. He'll probably see him in the chat box. You can ask him questions about how he plays and stuff like that. But let's check out this session here. Make sure you guys have, if you don't have an IK Multimedia account, create one now while this demo is playing back. We're going to use that for the giveaway at the very end. All we do is ask a very opinion-based question and for your IK username at the end. So let's take a listen and let me know what you guys think in the chat box. Great, so you can kind of hear, I did leave the solo a little bit up because we missed it last time, and you guys have heard the full mix. Now, this is an example mix, so I tried to pull up some stuff to really give you an example while we're going through this. So you can see I have the one module here. This is all going to be master bus processing today. I have the one module here going into the stealth limiter, going into my meters. Now, I'm going to walk you through each of those individually and then explain to you how they work together. Now, the main concept here is that I'm going to use my one to kind of master the track in a sense that I want to really make the song flow throughout. So I want to have different parts be more airy, more parts be wider. Particularly, for example, I want the chorus to be wide, I want the verses to be narrow, nice in the middle, more mono, and then I want to have all of my drum fills stand out. So how are we going to do that? We're going to grab these different knobs on the one module, which you can see they're all in one knob. So you might have an air, you might have a body width, but that's not just going to do one thing behind the hood. It's going to do a lot of interesting stuff, which will really help your sound. So let's go ahead and let's jump in here. and we're going to open up our one and look at the automation. So this is our automation, and you're going to see we have width, air, body, and the most important one I want to show you guys is the transient, which is this is going on throughout the entire track. Look at my automation. It comes on at specific points in the track. Now, why is that? These are all of our drum fills. Every time a drum fill comes out, I want to kick the transients up and make the fill stand out the most that I can. Now, if you guys didn't watch the last video, this is going to be a sample tank based drum set. This is going to be the Neil Peart library, a little customized, but for the most part, that's all it is. So that's what's making it really stick out outside of that, the processing that I've done for the individual tracks, which again, you can see in the other video. So outside of that, let's take a listen to without the one module on, and let's see how that drum fill sounds. Now, not the most insane drum fill, but let's check it out again. Now you can see it kind of stands out a lot, and you can really differentiate the sound of what's going on there. Now, let's look for another tom fill here, and we're going to grab our one module and let's turn it off and hear it without the processing. Sorry, that was a bunch of toms, but I think here, yes, I have a little bit of action on the transient there. So take a listen and look at the automation so you kind of hear what I'm talking about. One more time without the V1. So you can see the drums kind of sit back in the mix more, and the whole mix itself is just a little bit less present, and overall volume is a little bit lacking. So you can see that's the main point of my transients, to make those drum fills stand out. And all you need to do to write the automation, it depends on your DAW really, but in Ableton, you would just right click your parameter, show automation, and then you can just draw in here with the pencil tool. I believe if you press B, it'll go to the draw tool. I don't necessarily use that the most. I normally go in there manually drawing. Now, if you command 1 or control 1, it'll make the grid smaller. Control 2 will make it bigger. This is an Ableton tip mainly, but it will help you guys out if you're doing this. So the next thing I want to take a look at is going to be our width parameter. So let's show our automation there. You can see it's the top one. Let's hide these so I don't confuse you guys, but I did want to show all that's going on. Let's see how the width goes from this very beginning, very mono, and then it kind of branches out to a midpoint. And then for the chorus, it gets big and it dials back again for the verse. So let's take a listen without the one module, and notice the air is also moving. I want the air to come out in certain parts of the song, really to give it some presence and kind of just stand out a little bit more in the high end. So let's take a listen without the module, and then we'll play with it. One more time. And now let's take a listen where it gets a little bit sucked out and then pushed really hard for the chorus, which is where you really want the width to stand out. And I want it to be nice and wide, but my vocals, of course, would be in the center. But there are no vocals for this track, so you don't need to worry about that too much. You can see that width slams right back for the verse. So let's take a listen without that. So you hear it just kind of misses a little bit of something there. Now, of course, you guys can trial this if you want to check it out on your mixes, but the thing that pushed me to the one the most was Tom Lord Algae. He said that this was going to be a quick, easy way for him to show his clients what a master track would sound like, and that kind of just sparked something, and I started to use it a lot more. And I think it's really cool for that effect of really just showing what a track can sound like later. You notice there's other controls that I'm using here more as like an effects kind of tool, which is also cool. You can do whatever you really need to do, but most of the stuff I'm not using it as an effect. So look at our body here. It's completely sucked out. And if you notice, that first little riff doesn't sound the same with the one off and on. You heard it a couple times, so let's play it one more time. So as the song comes out, I want it to hit and be really punchy, but sometimes you can't just add punch to one part to make it punchy. You might need to make another part a little bit less punchy and make the difference that real sound that you're hearing. It's like when you use silence. Silence is also a very important tool. If there's constant loud music all the time and there's no silence, it can really be a useful tool for a quick gap and stuff like that. So let's take a look at our next module here, which I'm not doing quite as much. I'm not even automating it. I'm just simply using it to control my dynamics. And notice I just took my volume down a little bit. And that's because I'm using a little bit of the push, which is going to be a little bit of compression for my one module here. Now, it's going into this guy, which is just jucking it down quite a bit. And I'm not really messing with the modes too much. I don't want to pull... I don't want to go too crazy with the module, but the reason for this is my meters. They come in handy. So check this out. If I have my stealth limiter off, it's going to be a little bit loud. I do apologize for the increase in volume here. It shouldn't clip or anything, but you're going to see where I am on the meters. Now, look at the meter here, and you're going to see a 16. That is my reference point. You can change that here. Standards reference. I'm going to use the music streaming reference for Apple Music. That's where I'm going to be focused on, because that's going to be similar to the standards for Spotify and others. They're not exactly the same. So if you're posting your music to different standards, make sure you know what they're looking for. 16 is going to be my goal here. So check it out without the stuff. And you'll see it's a little bit loud. All right, I'll spare you guys, but you can see it's just over that 16, but let's play it one more time and just watch it sit perfectly at that 16. Now you might be saying, it's not quite hitting 16 yet. Now that's not the loudest part of my song. So let's go to the loudest part of my song, and that's where I really want it to peak at 16. I don't want it to go over that. Now, if you notice, I'm not trying to win the loudness war here. I'm not trying to push as loud as possible, or else I'd be more focused on pushing my signal to be a nice block around the entire time. I do want some dynamics here. Now, you might not want dynamics. You might want to automate your input and your output ceiling on your stealth limiter, so that way your peaks and your values are all close to the same. But that's not what I'm looking for, and that's not really the genre that I'm going for today. Now, of course, there's no real rules to music. It's all different guidelines. But these are the main things that I do to polish off my tracks. You have this limiter, which is just going to control your sound going into your meters, and the meters are just there so you know what level you're coming up to. Now, you notice I only used the LUFS. I didn't really talk about the other side of the meters, which is the RMS and the peak, which you guys might be more familiar with. It's definitely worth looking up the LUFS stuff. It's more of a loudness unit, which is kind of accounts for a lot more than just, decibels. So very interesting. Read more on it. I'm sure our mod has a couple of things to say in the chat. And if you guys have any preferences, let us know what that is. And actually, that's going to lead us into our question where we're going to be giving away Total Studio 2 Deluxe. And if you guys haven't done any of these giveaways before, it's a simple opinion-based question, but we need your IK username at the end. So go ahead and send us your answer. We want to know, what do you guys use for meters? Do you use peak? Do you use RMS? Do you use LUFS? And if you guys don't really use meters at all, that's fine. Just give us your opinion on metering and how you use it. End that answer with your IK username, and you will enter to win Total Studio 2 Deluxe. We will be picking our winner once I finish everything up here, and you see the thank you. But don't worry, we don't have any other things for you to do once you win. We're going to add it immediately to your account. No need to contact us. We're just going to throw it right in there for you. You can get started as soon as it's in. It might take a little bit to get in there, so don't worry if it's not there right after this episode. We're just getting things along. The request is set, though. So let's go ahead and we're going to take another listen to this track. I'm going to put the one in front and just let you kind of hear everything that's going on. But let's interact in the chat and see exactly what you guys think about the mix and what you guys would do differently, or what tips you guys would want to share with other users. These are just my tricks for a final polished track, and this gets me consistent results all the time. I know exactly what each of these knobs do. I know when to use them, and that's the thing about knowing your tools, and especially knowing your speakers. I have the iLoud MTMs and my KRKs here. They're very different when it comes to sound. Even though they're meant to do the same thing, they're meant to be studio monitors. My iLouds are very precise and almost surgical to a way where they're not very forgiving, and that's very good for translation. I could take anything I've mixed on the MTMs and it will sound good anywhere. For example, the KRKs. It's not anything on the MTMs that sounds good will sound great on the KRKs, but that's not always the case, vice versa. Sometimes the KRKs will add a little bit of color, which once you know your speaker isn't that big of a deal. And I'm not running down any other speaker companies. I love different monitors. I've used plenty of them. This is just my current setup. So the KRKs just add a little bit of color, which I don't mix on all the time, so I don't always know. It's like knowing a good set of headphones. You might know your frequencies and where you're pushing and stuff like that. So go ahead and send in your answers. We're going to play this track through one more time, and we're going to interact in the chat a little bit. I want to hear what you guys think about all of these different things that I've just presented here. If you guys haven't used any of these modules, let us know. And if you have, what's your favorite? That's not the question. Remember, the question is, what do you use for your meters? Do you use peak? Do you use RMS? Do you mess with LUFS? Or do you not meter at all? What do you do? Just give us your opinion and the IK username at the very end. So let's take a look at this track one more time. I'm going to go ahead and put these plugins in your face so you can hear and see everything. And thank you guys for sticking with us so far. This one will be a shorter session than the last couple ones. We did get you guys almost an hour last time, but don't worry, we'll be back. And next week's going to be a really good one where we go over Guitar Pro and using it with your IK Multimedia products. And there's a whole giveaway where you can win Guitar Pro and iRig HD2. Singular Sound has jumped in to give a 15% off promo code to everyone who enters, and also give away 4 cable units, which are really cool. If you guys don't know what those are, there's a link in the description where you can check out all that stuff and you can even sign up. So definitely check that out. And let's take a listen to this mix and go ahead and get your answers in there, and let's get somebody some good gear here. Awesome. So thank you guys again for sticking with us, and thank you for staying tuned. We want to see you guys next week, so make sure you mash that like and subscribe button. And thanks again for tuning in, guys. You're the reason that we keep making these videos, and we've been seeing a lot of increased attraction. So make sure you share with your friends, and we'll definitely keep them coming for you guys. So hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week, and congratulations to the winner in advance, and we'll be picking a winner just shortly. So thank you guys. We'll see you soon.